when the borrower's still paying. I mean, no one calls the bank and says, I have a mattress full of money that I want to give you. Everyone who calls them is calling because they're having problems. So the prepayment will actually cost banks a lot of money, and that's one of the reasons the HARP refinances haven't worked. Now, HARP 2, and we have a video, I think, because HARP 2 was introduced this week, and it changes some of the problems that the refinance program has had. And what I tried to do, just because everyone's talking about it this week, I tried to put a video clip in here, and we're going to see if it actually works, just to shake it up a little.
And more now on our top story. The Obama administration has come up with a new proposal to help some homeowners who are underwater. For more, let's bring in real estate lawyer and foreclosure specialist Shari Olefson. She wrote the book Foreclosure Nation. Shari, thank you for your time.
I like that arrow.
We know the president is in Nevada, where he will unveil more details on his plan to help people underwater. But in Nevada alone, 80% of homeowners are underwater. We know nationally, about 25% of homeowners are underwater. What kind of help do these people need at this point?
Well, obviously, being underwater is a big problem. The other part of this problem that the program really addresses, Cameron, is the fact that 75% of these folks who are underwater are paying above market interest rates now. So rather than being able to lower the principal, which obviously has reached a lot of resistance, we're lowering the interest rate with this program to hopefully provide them a similar type of savings.
But we know millions of people need this help, but is it safe to assume that most of the people will get it with this new program?
You know, I don't know about that. I would have to say probably no. I would give this new program an A in terms of effort because it's one of the first programs that actually rewards positive behavior. So we're making people be current in their... Well, they have to be current in their current mortgage in order to qualify for it, unlike the HAMP modifications, which oftentimes require people to actually be in default. In fact, this is one of the catch-22s that might put a lot of people out of the running for qualifying for one of these refinances, because millions of people have been told, if you want to get a modification, you need to default. They did that. They didn't get the modification. Well, now that they've defaulted, they won't qualify for this new program. But the program does address that negative equity, because let's face it, the original refinance program, the HARP program, was dead out of the gate with that 125% negative equity cap. I mean, in the hardest hit states where 50% of these problems are, people are 150 or 200% underwater, not 125%.
Unbelievable. But with that said, you know, we know if the housing market doesn't recover, that means the overall economy won't recover here. At this point, what do you see as the true evaluation, your true analysis of where this housing market stands right now, even before this new plan that the president will unveil? And he's bypassing Congress, by the way, to do this because he feels that they are holding up any of his efforts to get something done for the American people.
Right. Well, and here's the problem, Cameron, with a program like this. First of all, it addresses some of the obstacles. It addresses the negative equity problem in the appraisals. It addresses the costs and the reps and warranties. It does not address the prepayment risk that investors take when there's a refinance like this. And there's about, the Congressional Budget Office did a study, it's going to cost investors about $15 billion to agree to these refinances. And as we know, unless this is a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac touched mortgage, the banks don't have to agree to do this. So I'd be real surprised if a lot of those banks agree. The other thing is, unless we fix the negative equity problem, we're going to refinance all these folks. They're going to be in lower interest rate mortgages, but fast forward a year or two from now, they're going to sit back at their dining room tables and say, look, I'm still underwater, and we may see the defaults again.
Yeah, it's incredible. Shari, thank you very much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. Again, your book, Foreclosure Nation, people should certainly take a look at it. Thank you. And back to another big story.
Just out of curiosity, how many people think that this new program is going to work? Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I think it'll help. It'll probably do as good of a job as the program has so far. But, you know, the real problem, like we said, is people being underwater and lowering the rates for people, probably maybe up to 1 million people. First of all, when you're talking about 20 million people who need help, lowering the rates is not going to do it. We need to stop property values from falling, and we'll talk a little bit about that more later. But here's the, does anyone ever do television and radio and stuff? No? Like, hearing your voice is just ridiculous, especially when you talk at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's like, oh, slow down. Don't you hate hearing yourself? Anyway, okay. The Congressional Budget Office paper that I mentioned, in terms of this actual program, there will be about $3.9 billion savings to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac because they'll be avoiding some defaults, but there will also be about $4.5 billion in costs because they'll be getting lower interest rates on these new loans. The reason it's not going to be spread beyond this, again, is because it would cost investors, private investors, about $15 billion to lower the interest rates on these millions of mortgages. So they're probably just not going to do it. In terms of refinances, though, for us as real estate practitioners, the bottom line is that HARP has, the refinance program has now been extended until 2013. There will probably be other refinance initiatives this year. So if you're doing refinances, you can definitely expect that business to pick up because there's a big incentive to figure out ways for people to be able to do that. This slide I actually, not that one, this one I love because my partner David Blattner helped me with the math. If we can refinance all of these mortgages that really should be refinanced, it would be about 20 million new loans, over $3 trillion in revised debts, and over $7 billion in title insurance premiums to us. The other program that's under Making Home Affordable is short sales and deeds in lieu. Has anyone here, do you all do short sale transactions? Okay, so a fair amount. This was actually under the HAFA program, which stands for Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternative. It came out about a year after the HAMP and the HARP programs, and then it was tweaked again this summer. Is anyone of those people who do short sales, is anyone finding it any easier to do short sales now? A little bit? Their pilot program, you mean now? Yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Well, that's good news because we need to make it easier. And over the coming year, it probably will get easier and easier to do short sales. We'll talk a little bit in what some of the problems with that still are. But these were basically the HAFA short sale tweaks, if you just want to read through those yourself. They made some changes to make short sales happen quicker for people, and to some extent they did. The real problem, of course, with short sales, and I'm hearing this from folks at every level, is if you're looking for a home now, a first-time home buyer, you're competing with cash buyers, cash investors, and most of the short sale homes, a lot of them are in really crappy condition. This is a huge problem. So we've got an inventory of homes that just aren't selling that look like this, that investors don't want because it's too much money to fix them up, and first-time home buyers don't want because they've got little kids and jobs and other things and they can't be messing with it. And this is South Florida. This is the predominant number of listings that we have that are not moving. When you drive by and you see something that's been on the market for a long time, this is what it looks like inside, and that's why it's been on the market a long time. You mentioned the bank. What's your name? Alan. Alan mentioned the Bank of America pilot program, which just started maybe a month or so ago. They're paying homeowners up to $20,000. It's kind of like a cash for keys, but for short sales, to move out. And I think in terms of the dates for that particular program, they have to be under contract by November 30th, if you have any clients this applies to, and they have to close by August of 2012, but I would expect that we'll see a lot more banks paying people to do short sales and get out of their homes. So the bottom line, as real estate practitioners on the short sale front, is that the systems will improve over the next year or so, and short sale business will pick up. So if you're looking for areas to focus your practice on, that's definitely an area. The other part of Making Home Affordable that I just wanted to touch on are some of the unemployment initiatives. Is anyone familiar with the unemployment initiatives that the government has in place to help people who are unemployed? I'm going to take that as a good sign because that means that no one's unemployed, right? That's good. The UP Forbearance is Making Home Affordable's program. Most of these programs, what they did in the last year is they increased the amount of time that they'll cover unemployed people. And what they do is they're really sort of like grants to help people cover their mortgage payments for a certain amount of time. We have the Emergency Homeowners Loan Program. There's several federal initiatives. Anyone familiar with the Hardest Hit Fund? That's something that's happening through the state finance agencies, so the state housing agencies, and there are billions of dollars being spent now under these federal regulations and policies to help people who are unemployed stay in their homes by helping them cover their mortgage payments for a little bit. Most of those are in place until 2017. So we know that the federal government is telling us by that they're not expecting the employment situation to get a whole lot better until 2017. Another topic that has been pretty hot with the federal regulations is the foreclosure prevention events. Have anyone ever been to one of these foreclosure prevention conferences where they get 10 or 20,000 people show up? Is anyone, raise your hand if you're familiar. You've been to them? Is anyone familiar? Have you heard of them or seen them advertised? Okay. I did one with Congressman Deutsch a couple weeks ago. One of the big problems that we've got now with those workshops, one of the federal initiatives has been to fund credit counseling through HUD Consumer Credit Counselors. Well, the money for that has run out. And those folks were the user interface at these conferences. The homeowners would walk in and they'd meet with a credit counselor first, which is, I think, a great idea, because if you're in that situation, you need credit counseling. And then the credit counselor would direct them to the right place and help them with the bank. There's no more money for the credit counselors right now. So these programs, I think, have also lost a lot of their PR benefit. You know, at first the banks were getting and government was getting a lot of, you know, good PR for doing these events. I think that's pretty much worn thin. Interesting, out of 8 million people invited to these events that the Making Home Affordable program did, about 58,000 people showed up. So I think if you were like a party planner and you invited 58 million people and only if you invited 8 million people and only 58,000 showed up, you'd probably go out of business too. You can't be doing business like that. So we'll see less and less of these. Has anyone seen the Making Home Affordable advertisements though? Like in the movie theaters, they had big Making Home Affordable billboards, or on 95. Did anyone see those at all? No? They had them in the movie theater sometimes with those promos. You know, it's really a buzzkill actually, because you're going to the movie theater like see a comedy and then all of a sudden there's this Making Home Affordable thing, but they're not going to be doing that anymore. But they are. Has anyone seen the Fannie Mae public campaigns on television now? They have advertisements where they show someone, you know, a homeowner, they talk about alternatives. Has anyone seen that? No. They're investing a lot more in these PSAs, so we'll be seeing more and more of that on television. The other big part of the federal triage initiatives have been the community preservation initiatives. Is anyone familiar with Neighborhood Stabilization Program or any of the community preservation initiatives? A little bit? There's several of them, but under NSP, for example, we had NSP1, NSP2, and NSP3, and basically that's federal money allocated for these types of things to local governments and state governments. And the whole point of the neighborhood stabilization efforts is to prevent entire neighborhoods from slipping through the cracks because of high numbers of, you know, what are becoming crack houses and empty houses due to foreclosure. I think Miami Gardens got like $2 million for taking down some properties and rebuilding other properties. I don't think that these programs are going to go away. The President's American Jobs Act, are you all familiar with that? It's something been in the news like the last week or so. Includes a component called Project Rebuild, which would fund like almost 2 million construction jobs that have been lost, particularly here in Florida. So all of that's happening under community preservation. The third aspect of the triage initiatives, like I said, has been leveraging Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to make these programs happen, because of course they have pull with the banks and they can go in and basically force the banks to do some things. 90% of the homes are touched by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We talked about the Making Home Affordable initiatives. That's all Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But we also have programs under each of those, like Fannie Mae has their Home Path program. Has anyone done any closings through Home Path sales? You have? Those are basically, you know, initiatives incentives that Fannie Mae provides to get their homes sold, like a 3% down payment. They'll contribute 3.5% to closing costs. And they had a new add-on where they give the realtor a $1,200 bonus for selling a Fannie Mae listing, but that expires at the end of this month. The other program I love is Lease for Deed. Has anyone heard about Lease for Deed? Where are you people? No one's heard about Lease for Deed? I love this program. This allows someone basically to turn their home over to the bank, but remain on as a tenant, which obviously solves two problems. The bank doesn't have to foreclose, and you don't have an empty home. So I think that those are wonderful initiatives. I think we're going to see a lot more private banks who aren't involved with Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac starting to do that this year. So it means that we won't be having the closings to do as real estate practitioners. There may be a deed title transfer,